So this take comes from Jojo404, and this was an email submitted through the Casual Wrestling email. Jojo said, are people really bothered by AEW's ring size? I feel like people are just digging for any excuse to put down AEW. Like, really, this is where we're at now. It's so sad. No one legitimately cares about ring size. So Jojo, clearly probably not a fan of the show, more of an AEW guy, but that's all right. We take takes from anywhere we can get them. But here's what I think is important to talk about right here, because I think this is where I can really speak up and explain why this matters, because I'm a casual wrestling fan and even more a casual wrestling AEW watcher. It's not just the ring, Jojo. If it was just the ring, I think it might be slightly comical, but I think it would have slid and nobody would have really talked about it. To me, it's what the ring represents in terms of a larger picture of what Tony Khan tries to portray his company's image to be, and what AEW sickos, I don't know if you're a sicko, Jojo. I don't know if you're an IWC. I don't know what you are, but there's an image that a lot of the AEW fans try to portray about what AEW is. So I'll start off by saying, I admit, I don't know anything about what happened at AEW's Australia show. It could have been an amazing night of wrestling. Could have been the best night of wrestling of all time. Absolutely hope it was. I hope that it was a great show, had no issues. If everything went to plan, here's the reality. If you had a great night of wrestling and there wasn't a small ring and some of the other problems that surrounded the show, the conversation the following week is AEW killed it. And as a casual fan, I go, maybe I need to start paying attention. Maybe I need to put an eye back on that product. Maybe I need to look into what I'm missing. But here's the reality, Jojo. This is the reality of what happened. That's not the conversation this week. What I know as an outsider to AEW is there was supposed to be a pay-per-view in Australia, and it turned into a television show, and people were upset about that. That's what I know right now. Then I know that for a show that was seemingly supposed to be important, there was a ring that wasn't the right size. Now, I know a lot of fans were pissed off about the show changing from a pay-per-view to a television show. I think shit like that happens. I know there's a lot of people making fun of the ring. Shit like that happens. But to me, the part that becomes problematic, Jojo, is how Tony Khan handles the situation post all of these things happening, right? So when I read that Tony Khan says all of these decisions were made coming off of NBA All-Star Saturday Night because the network wanted to try and engage viewers coming out of a big event like that. To me, when I hear that, that sounds like a desperate attempt to kind of salvage just mistakes, right? These were just mistakes that were made, just, shouldn't be made, but these were just mistakes made. I also saw Tony Khan come out and try and follow this was the most important card for AEW in 2025. That this was being booked as a super card, and this was supposed to be one of the biggest shows you're going to see. Here's the problem. It pulled in 500,000 viewers, which that's not me making fun of that number. If on a weekly basis, AEW's at about 350, and that means you pulled in 150 more, do you really like that optic? Do you like the optic of all of these, let's call them casual fans, right? Because these are probably casual fans. They're probably NBA All-Star fans who know what wrestling is, who go, oh, there's wrestling on. They turn it on, and the first thing they see is a tiny little ring that looks like it's falling apart. Is that the optic that they wanted? Is that the narrative that you wanted? Because as a casual wrestling fan, I thought you're pinning this as a big show. And the only other big show I can pin this towards is WWE doing their Netflix debut. And with WWE, you had the Netflix debut. They went all out, man. They had fucking curtains and lights and lasers and fucking smoke. And then we go to what you're calling an important show, and you can't even get the right size ring into the arena. And don't give me the bullshit about, I don't like the idea of like it's logistics and shipping. You've gotten rings overseas before. Like, with the amount of money you have, you can get this ring to where it goes. Now I know QT Marshall came out and said, like, we knew all along we rented this ring from some other company. That's fine. But Tony, you should have came out and said, I didn't fucking know that's what we were renting. Like, Tony, step up and fucking say, like, there were decisions made within the company that I was not informed of, and this is what we ended up with. Because to me, honestly, I don't even know if it's the size of the ring that bothers me as much when I look at pictures. I think it's how much it looks like the ring is falling apart. I think it's literally looks like it's being put together by paper clips, and I'm not going to lie, and this is probably fucked up, but the first thing I thought when I saw the ring and how janktified it looked like it was falling over, the first thing I thought was, damn, this thing looks worse than the ring that like the micro wrestlers who wrestle at like Hooters in your local city. The AEW ring looks worse than that tiny little ring that the micro wrestlers lose. At least all 4 posts on the micro ring are standing straight up. But like I said, my problem is this isn't the first time you traveled overseas. It's not your first road show. These were oversights. And instead of coming out and owning them and going, all right, look, we dropped the ball on this. We dropped the ball on a lot of this. We understand we fucked up and we're only going to get better from this. It becomes this game of covering up, and it's a he said, she said, it's pointing fingers. We rented the ring from this. Like, if you really rented that ring sight unseen and you show up and that's what's in the middle of the building is this dilapidated wrestling ring, I think you've got to just be irate. You've got to be, if my friend Dave Meltzer, I'd be over there just giving him all the tea on what happened so that we could get the straight story out there, not covering up like we meant to do this. This is what we meant to do. Coming out of the All-Star game, we wanted this optic. That's absolutely insane. And I saw Bubba Ray say that he didn't see the big deal and that fans are kind of overhyping the situation. To me, the issue for a Bubba Ray, I call him Bubba Ray, I know there's another name he goes by, but the issue for me is that Bubba's seen rings all around the world. So he's seen rings that look a lot worse than that, I'm sure. He's seen rings that look a lot better than that, I'm sure. What he's not taking into consideration, like I said, is this is coming out of the All-Star game where you saw a spike, you saw a crossover and new people watching the product. Not to mention, I mean, I guarantee you the WB execs were watching this show and you click on the TV and you see a ring that looks like it's falling apart. And that is a representation not only of AEW, that's a representation of TNT. That's a representation of WB. That's a representation of what, I don't know what channel it was on, but that's a representation of all of those people. And look, they got to turn it on. And the guy from WB's got to be like, what is this, a fucking circus? Like, why don't we? I watch WWE, their rings lighting up and spraying fire. It's got LED boards on it, and our shit doesn't look like it's going to make it through the night, right? Like, the truth is, coming out of an All-Star weekend, if this was as big of an event as you thought it was, this should have been treated like the premiere of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. Like, it should have been overdone. Should have been lights, lasers, cameras. I'd have had a ring, and I'd have had a backup ring there. I'd have had everything that I needed to make sure that this show went down exactly the way I wanted to. Because instead, like I said, it's not just the size of the ring. It's not just that the ring was falling over. It's not that this was a pay-per-view and it got turned into a regular TV taping. It is when you combine all those optics together, that is the conversation coming out of a show that was supposed to, this was a show that was supposed to reinvigorate your crowd. Coming out of the All-Star game, you could have gained a little bit of market space back, but instead I think the reality is people turned that on and went, oh, AEW's hurting, AEW's in trouble. And like I said, I mean, to be honest with you, I'll throw you out one last joke to throw it out. I don't even know that the ring size matters that much, because with the small wrestlers in AEW, can you even tell? It looked like a big ring with those guys in there, right? But that's all we've got for this week. Keep the hot takes coming, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to join the Discord if you have not already. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D. I will catch up with you guys next week.